A big hello and warm welcome to my dear students. I welcome you back in the series on Economic Survey 2025-26. In the first lecture, we had seen the most important theme of this year's Economic Survey. In the second lecture, we are going to examine chapter number 8 of Economic Survey, which is Industries. Let us look at the title of Industries. So, the chapter's title is Industries Next Leap, Structural Transformation, that is number 1, and number 2, Global Integration. So, Economic Survey in chapter number 8 is going to examine that what should India do to improve its industries in the coming years. And there are two things that this chapter argues. The first is structural transformation and second is global integration. First, I have to explain the meaning of these two terms, which is transformation and global integration. So, now guys, have a look at this. There are 3 products that you can see in my hand. The first product is this pen. Would you call it as a very high valued product with a lot of features, or would you call it as basic product? Of course, basic product, good. This is a normal pen. This is digital pen. Would you call it as extremely high valued product or medium level technology oriented product? Medium? Yes. What would you call this as? This is a smartphone, technologically rich product or a very basic product? You would call it as a high-end product in terms of technology. So, I have 3 products in hand. One is basic, one is medium level technology and one is high level technology. So, Economic Survey argues that now it is the right time that India should move away from here, because this is our dominant product in India. So, Economic Survey says along with this, India should produce medium and high level also, which we have started to do. So, Economic Survey says India should produce more of these products. That is called structural transformation. And the second part which is mentioned in the Economic Survey is global integration. So, Economic Survey says, for example, suppose in the manufacturing of this mobile phone, the camera of the mobile phone is coming from US, the screen of the mobile phone comes from, let's say, South Korea, the semiconductor chip comes from Taiwan, some electronic components come from China, and remaining electronic component comes from India. So, let's say that we import some components from China, we put that in this box of the mobile phone, then we bring some components from Taiwan. Now, we export this mobile phone, incomplete mobile phone, to US, US puts the remaining of the items. So, US, South Korea, China, Taiwan and India, these countries together are called as global value chain, because in the production of this product, which is the mobile phone, some value has been added in all these countries. That is why these countries constitute something called as global value chain, GVC. Now, Economic Survey argues that India should not only add 1 or 2 components, but India should add more number of components in this mobile phone so that India becomes a very important player in the global value chain. This is called integration in the global value chain. And Economic Survey argues that if India is able to add more number of components, then India will become invaluable contributor in the global value chain, and without India, the global value chain will be incomplete. That is what the Economic Survey argues. And Economic Survey also says that if India is able to add more components in the mobile phone, more jobs will be created in India. India will be able to export high value items also. These are the things Economic Survey argues. That is the meaning of this chapter. So, now before we go deeper into this chapter, let me tell you the structure of this chapter called as industries. So, this year I have divided industries into 3 parts, part A, part B and part C. So, in part A, we are going to study the performance of industries across the world, and we are going to examine the performance of Indian industries also. And to examine the performance of Indian industries, we are going to use 6 parameters, as you can see here. We will study all these 6 in great details. In section 2 of this chapter, we are going to study the performance of some important industries. And I have divided the industries into 3 categories. One is called core industries. What are core industries? Industries like, for example, cement, coal, steel, chemicals and petrochemicals. These are called core industries. Why? Because the product of these industries is used in other industries as inputs or intermediate goods. For example, steel is used in automobile industry as intermediate good. So, that is why, or inputs, that is why we call steel industry as the core industry. So we are going to examine how the core industries are doing. Number two, we are going to examine the capital goods industry. Capital goods means equipments, machines, which is used mostly in all the industrial processes, whether we are using simple capital goods or technologically rich capital goods, but we generally use capital goods in industries. So we are going to examine how India is doing in capital goods. Third is automobile, electronic, pharma and textile. These are some of the industries in which India generally does well. India has some advantage, and these industries rank very high in terms of production and export. So we are going to examine that the usual industries of India in which India normally does well, how has India performed in last few years. In the third section, which is section C, we are going to examine that what are the future reforms that India should undertake so that manufacturing and industries of India become more strong and they can contribute in improving India's employment, export as well as inclusive growth. So how many reforms are we going to examine? We are going to examine 7 reforms which can improve our manufacturing and industries. This lecture will be highly useful for you for prelims, mains and interview. So I have designed the lecture in such a way that the content from here can be used in different stages of the exam. And let me tell you that the source of the data in this chapter is strictly economic survey, and I have extracted the right amount of data from here which can be useful for various stages of UPSC exam. Let us begin section A. Now, as you can see, I have taken this table 1.2b from this is economic survey. In this table, 3 sectors have been mentioned: agriculture and allied activities, industries and services. Suppose the GDP of India is 100 rupees. Out of 100 rupees, what is the contribution of agricultural sector? So from whatever data we have from the survey, let us see the contribution of agriculture sector in 2024. So this FY25 means actually 2024, FY26 means 2025. And as you can see that these are provisional estimates and these are not the final ones. So let us manage with the data that we have. So in 2024, you can see that contribution of agriculture sector in this 100 rupees GDP is 16.3. In 2025, it became 15.2, which means the contribution of agriculture has come down a little bit. And you also know a popular theory which says that as the country progresses, its contribution of agriculture sector in the overall GDP keeps coming down because the country is becoming more advanced. Now let us look at the contribution of industries. The contribution of industries in this GDP, suppose the GDP of India is 100 rupees, the contribution of industries in 2024 was 24.6 and in 2025 it's 24.3. So the contribution of industries is also coming little down. But there has not been a very huge decline in the contribution of industries. It's more or less in the same range. Now let us look at contribution of services. So in 2024, services contributed around 49.9% in India's GDP, and in 2025 it contributed 51.1%. So contribution of services has increased. Now, if you look deeper into industries, let's look at the components of industries. So within industries, how many subsectors are there? Number 1, mining and quarrying. Number 2, manufacturing. Number 3, electricity, gas and water supply. Number 4, construction. So if you look at the contribution of mining and quarrying, now what has happened is from 1.6, this is the contribution of mining and quarrying in India's GDP. So from 1.6 it has become 1.4, so gone down. Manufacturing 12.6, it has become 12.8, it has increased. Public utility has gone down. Construction more or less same but gone little down. Contribution of manufacturing has increased. Government has argued in economic survey that manufacturing sector is trying to revive itself, and we will see the reasons. Economic survey gives the reasons also and says that if we follow the right mix of policies, we can actually make the manufacturing sector shine in future even more than what we see now. So on that note, let us try to see the details of Indian industries. But if in UPSC they ask you what is the contribution of manufacturing in India's GDP, what will you say? Currently you will say it's around 12.8%. And what is the contribution of overall industries in India's GDP? What will you say? It's roughly around 24.3%. So you have to memorize these 2 figures, guys, for prelims as well as mains. Contribution of industries 24.3, contribution of manufacturing roughly 13%, which is 12.8%. Important for exam. Now let us look at the global performance and let us see where India stands. So the economic survey talks about 2 very important things. Economic survey says that if you look at the world today, the whole world related to industries is thinking about only 2 things. Number 1, almost every country in the world is planning to shift from basic level product, which is low end product, like I showed you a pen. So we are trying to shift away from something which is very simple like a pen towards something which is more sophisticated, which is more technology oriented, like a digital pen and like a smartphone or aircrafts. These are the things the world wants. So there are three types of product: low end product, medium and high end. And the world is trying to shift from low end to medium and high end. India is also trying to shift. India is also trying to manufacture more of medium and high end products. Now, what is the advantage if you do it? I'll give an example to you. Suppose we manufacture this mobile phone. Now imagine that we are getting the components of this mobile phone from foreign countries. So let's say that Taiwan is giving us a component, China is giving us a component, Japan is also giving us component, right? So we take three components, we mix them together, we fit it, assemble it, and then we pass it on to USA. Now USA is also putting more components, USA is doing the research, right? Now, if India is only getting basic things like one or two components here and there and then passes on the material to the other countries which do the real research, they will get the highest price for the product. If India is only supplying plastic for this mobile phone or metal, what price will India get? Very low. What employment will India create? Very less employment. So the economic survey says that these days the countries do not only want to bring inputs, the countries want to add some value from their side. So if we get some input from others, we also do some research and try to add something from our side. Then we supply the product. Then employment will be created and then India will become very important part of global supply chain. So if India wants to become very important player in the global value chain, then India will have to move away from low value product to medium and high value product. Because if India starts to supply the important components, high value product like camera, like the screen, like the motherboard, these are important components. If India starts to supply them, then India will become indispensable part of the global value chain. That is what the economic survey says, that every country in the world is looking for two things. Number one, they are trying to change their product from basic to medium and advanced. And second, every country in the world is trying to become important player in the global value chain, including India. India is also trying to do it. Now, on that note, let us examine what has been the performance of manufacturing sector in India and in other countries. So, in this economic survey, I am using chart number 8.1. See what it is saying. It is saying that if you look at, quarter 3, 2025, which means that what is the first quarter of the year? April, May, June. Second quarter, July, August, September. Third quarter, October, November, December. So it is comparing October, November, December's average performance of 2025 compared to 2024. So third quarter of 2025 with third quarter of 2024, it is trying to see the rate of growth of manufacturing sector across the world. So if you look at the rate of growth of manufacturing, you will see in China it's 1.3, India 1.3, Africa 1.3, and remaining you can see very bad. Latin America and Caribbean, though it is minus. So you can see that these three are doing well. So India, China, Africa, and all the three interestingly part of BRICS. So economic survey is arguing that if you look at the contemporary world, the performance of India's manufacturing sector is decent. Now we are going to examine purely from domestic perspective that how are Indian industries doing. So bacho, if you have to check what is your performance in a particular subject, what do? You look at your marks in the exam, you look at your efforts, then you look at your marks compared to others' marks, right? There are so many ways in which you can see, right? So similarly, if you want to check the performance of Indian industries, we can use 6 parameters as per this economic survey to examine the performance of Indian industry. So what is the first parameter? First parameter is rate of growth of manufacturing value added. I'll give an example to you. Suppose I buy plastic worth 10 rupees, right? So this plastic becomes my input. In this 10 rupees plastic, I add some features to it and I convert that plastic into this digital pen. So how much value have I added from my side? Some new technology, etc. I have added. So I bought plastic for 10 rupees. As you can see the body of the pen, I added more features into it and the value of the features is 100 rupees, right? So this feature that I have added, like I converted plastic into this shape, like converting plastic into this shape, 100 rupees. So now the price of this pen will be 110. So what is the final price of the pen? 110. So if somebody will ask me, how much value have you added? So I got a plastic of 10, but I added from my side, I added the shape, the color, etc. features worth 100. So 100 rupees is the value added. Now in Indian industries, earlier we were creating plastic, we were converting into this type of pen. But suppose in Indian industries, now we have started to buy plastic, which is inputs 10 rupees, same plastic, but now we are adding more features to it. So which feature are we adding now? Suppose that along with this tip of the pen, this back side of the pen also becomes functional, and this pen becomes more strong. Better features are added in this pen, extra features are added. I also add one indicator, light, etc. New features are added. So what is the value addition that I did in the pen? 130 rupees now. And now what will be the price of my product? 140. So if you look at this pen now, look at the value addition by India. Earlier the value addition in India was 100 rupees, now it's 130 rupees, 30% higher. This is what India is trying to do now. And if India is able to do it, then India will become very important player in the global value chain, because other countries will look up to India because India is adding more features, and India will become indispensable part of global value chain. So the economic survey, current economic survey argues that India has started to do these things, right? So as you can see, share of medium and high technology products in India is increasing because we are adding more value. And the first point is rate of growth of manufacturing value added, which means are we adding more value? Yes. And are we creating high valued product? Yes. According to economic survey, we are creating more of advanced products now. Now, third is purchasing managers index, manufacturing. And the next one is RBI's business expectation index. So basically, bacho, this point number 3 and 4, here what we do is, in purchasing managers index, we ask certain set of questions to the managers of the factory. For example, we ask them that, are you expecting to buy more raw material? Are you expecting to get more orders? Are you expecting to create more employment? So we are asking them questions that what are they thinking or planning about future related to their factory, which means this is purely about future expectation of the managers related to the economy. So if the managers tell us that yes, we are planning to buy more raw material, we feel that we will get more orders, we will create more employment, that means things are fine. So we are going to examine this, that what do the Indian managers think. Similarly, RBI also creates something called business expectation index, where the RBI tries to find out that what is the expectation of Indian producers and businesses related to the economic performance. That is also based on behavioral economics, expectations. So based on that also we see that Indian economy has been doing well. The third is called competitive industrial performance. What is the meaning of competitive industrial performance? So for example, if you want to find out whether my pen that I have created is globally competitive or not, which means in the world compared to other pens, is my pen better? How will you find out? For that, you need to find out that if 100 pens are sold in the world, how many pens from my company are sold? You also need to find out the features, the price, etc. This will give you an idea whether my pen is competitive. So we are going to check that whether Indian products are competitive in the global market. And the answer to the question that are we competitive? Yes, our competitiveness is slightly increasing. And the last part based on which we are going to examine the performance of Indian industries is bank credit and total credit. So bacho, imagine that there is a factory. This factory is taking more loan from banks. This factory is also getting more money from capital market. Why would somebody take more loan from bank or from capital market? Of course, because I want to produce more. If I don't want to produce more, I will not take loans. So in that sense, we can say that if some factories or all the factories of India are taking more loan from either banks or from capital market, they must be expecting more orders and demands in future. So things are positive. So in this way, we are going to examine all these components one by one. So let's examine. Now look at the gross value added. I'll give you quick results. So in UPSC, you don't have to use these graphs at all, but I have taken this graph just so that I can tell you one line result, which you can note down. So see. So what is the first one is called industrial gross value added, which means how much value do we add in our industrial products, right? So you can see that in the first half of 2024 and in the first half of 2025, we are comparing that what has been our industrial production. So you can see that our industrial production actually, or real industrial gross value added, has increased. Earlier it was around 6.09, means around 6%, now it is 7%. So between 24 and 25, first half of 24 compared to first half of 25, our performance has been slightly better. You can also see economic survey says that around the second quarter of 2024, our performance of industries went down or manufacturing went down, but then we started to pick up and now we have started to revive. Why was India able to revive its performance? Because we also started to focus on high valued items and technology related items. That is what the economic survey says. And economic survey also says that India has been not focusing on individual industry, but India is focusing on a concept called as industrial cluster. What is industrial cluster, bacho? So industrial cluster means that you come in a particular geography like this. For example, if you go to Coimbatore of Tamil Nadu, you will see that around Coimbatore area, there is one zone where defense related factories are there. This is called defense cluster. Similarly, if you go to UP, Kanpur area, you will see defense related industries are located in one place. You go to Pune, you will see automobile related factories located in one area. So whenever a similar type of factory is located in a particular area, it is called industrial cluster. So it's easy for the government to supply infrastructure, raw material, marketing is easy. So we are more focusing these days on the cluster model, right? That is one of the reasons. So we are focusing on high valued items also, we are focusing on cluster approach also, and we are also trying to improve technology in our production. Based on these things, our industries have started to perform slightly better. And there is one more thing. Government has been able to motivate the industries to register also. So for example, if I am an industry, steel industry, but I am not registered, so I will not be able to get, the benefit of many schemes by the government of India. So government is trying to convince and motivate the industries to register more so that they can get more benefits of the government schemes. Based on these things, our industrial revival or revival of manufacturing sector has been possible. This is what the survey says. Now, the economic survey also talks about this interesting thing. Economic survey says that if you look at India, right, so you will find something interesting, that around 46.3% of India's manufacturing value added, which means if India is producing a pen like this and if India is adding components inside it, so if 100 components have been added in India, out of 100 components, around 46 components are high level components. Components which use medium level or high level technology. So out of 100 components that we add in India, roughly 46% components are medium to high level components. That is what we have said here, and that is what is called as medium and high technology activity. That is one of the reasons that India has been able to create now medium and high level products also slowly, and we are also able to export them. As you can see, our export of medium and high level technology products are rising. Now, the third parameter, as I had told you, is called as competitive industrial performance. Now, how do we measure the competitiveness of industrial products of India? So, for example, if in India we are producing this mobile phone, how do we measure if our mobile phone is industrially competitive or people prefer our mobile phone? Using three parameters. The first is called capacity to produce and export. For example, if you ask Indian industries that, hey, we need 1 lakh mobile phones. Suppose you are from US and you are asking Indian industries, I need 1 lakh mobile phone, can you produce? If the answer is yes, that means you have the capacity, that means you will be competitive. Whenever required, you will be ready with the product. So the first sign of competitiveness is having the resources to produce. So yes, in India, we have that. Number two, technology deepening and upgrading. So for example, if India is producing this mobile phone, what did I tell you? If we are using 100 products, approximately 46 products are medium to high level. That means our competitiveness is rising because now we don't depend on others for medium and high level components. We can have our own components. So that is the second component, which is the technology deepening and upgrading, share of medium and high level technology value added. The third is world impact. What is the meaning of world impact? So suppose that this mobile phone is being sold in the world. 100 components have been added in this mobile phone. Out of 100 components, how many components has India added? That is very important question. And second important question is that if 100 manufactured products are sold across the world, what is the contribution of India in the global manufacturing? Right. So what is the contribution of India in the world manufacturing export? So if 100 products are exported in the world, out of 100 products, how many products has India exported? That will show that what is our capacity. So based on these three parameters, you can judge the competitiveness. First is capacity, the second is technology, and the third is world impact. Are we important for the world? If you combine these three, then a rank is given to India. So in the year 2022, our rank was 40th. Now in 2023, our rank is 37th. So we are doing pretty okay. We are doing well in terms of global competitiveness. As per economic survey, we are improving. Now, economic survey also mentions that if India wants to improve its competitiveness even further, what should India do? India should do these 5 things. These are called 5 pillars of competitiveness. It can be asked in prelims and mains both. So, number 1 rule to improve competitiveness is ease of doing business. For example, if I want to start a business, government should not force me to go from office to office and sign the documents and NOCs. It should be given to me through single window clearance. Number 2, boost research and development. Government should help me to improve my research and development facilities in India. Number 3, skill development should be there. Number 4, infrastructure and logistic. And number 5 is improve the MSMEs. So if India wants to create globally best products, we should promote more MSMEs. We should provide good infrastructure to industries. We should also create skilled labor force. And we should also improve ease of doing business in India. Now, as I was telling you that there are 2 indices which show us what is the expectation of businesses from Indian economy. So as you can see, the first is called as Purchasing Managers Index for manufacturing, and second is called as RBI's Business Expectation Index. Now, whenever we ask a question to managers that how do they feel about India's future performance and their own future performance, if their value, because whenever we ask a question to the managers, we give them some score. So if the total score of all the questions that we have asked the manager is greater than 50, so if they are giving the answer to us that yes, they are expecting good business in India, they are expecting good orders in India, the managers of the factories, and their score is, average score is above 50, we will say that Purchasing Managers Index is greater than 50. Whenever it is greater than 50, it shows economy is doing well. And in India, from March 23 till date, our Purchasing Managers Index score is above 50. Similarly, when Reserve Bank of India calculates this index, it is called RBI's Business Expectation Index. There RBI also asks questions in the economy that what do the economic agents or businesses feel about India, and then RBI gives them score. If the average score of all the businesses in India is greater than 100, that means Business Expectation Index is optimism, which means that the Indian producers are very optimistic. They feel that Indian economy will do well. So in India, what has happened from March 2022 till now, the score in RBI's Business Expectation Index has been above 100. So it shows optimism. If it was below 100, it would be pessimism. And this line 100 is called line of neutrality. So if India was on this line, that means Indian businesses are neither optimistic nor pessimistic, they are neutral. But currently they are optimistic. So this is that chart. Now we come to the bank credit. So Bacho, I want to tell you one thing related to bank credit. Listen to it very carefully. So what has happened is, if you look at the factories of India, our factories get money from 2 sources. One is loan from bank called as bank credit, and the second is money from capital market by selling shares and bonds. So the trend in India these days is that if you look at Indian companies, the money they are getting from bank is coming down, which means they are taking less loan from the bank. So where are the Indian companies getting their money from? Capital market. So there are 3 things which have happened in India. The loan that the Indian companies are taking from bank is coming down, as you can see. The loan that the companies take from bank called as bank credit is going down. The money that the Indian companies are taking from capital market through shares and bonds is rising. And it is rising so much that overall, the total credit or total money taken by Indian companies is rising. So are Indian companies taking more money? Yeah, they are. They are arranging more resources. But where are they arranging the resources from? The share of banking capital is going down and the share of capital market is going up. That is the result that you should memorize. So which are the sectors in India which take the maximum amount of bank credit? This can be a prelims question, that which are the sectors of India which take more money from the banking system. So the number 1 sector is mining and quarrying, number 2 is food processing industry, number 3 is beverage and tobacco, number 4 is textile, number 5 is leather product. If you memorize these 5 products, you can see that these are the 5 sectors which take maximum bank credit in India. So now guys, let us get into section B, where we are going to examine some of the important industrial subsector in India. So the first subsector that we are going to examine is the cement sector, and as we know that it is also called as core sector, because cement is used in various other industries in India. There can be no building or real estate without cement. So now let us look at the cement industry in India. So now guys, if you look at India's rank in terms of cement industry's production, our rank is ranked 2nd in the world, only next to China. China is ranked 1 in cement and we are ranked 2nd in cement production. Now, let us see our overall trend in the recent years related to cement in India. So you will see that in India, the cement production is showing an increasing trend, specifically after COVID. It's showing increasing trend, which means there is a buoyancy in the real estate sector. We can also see that installed capacity is also rising in cement industry. And why is the installed capacity rising? Because India is actually putting more efforts towards infrastructure, real estate, industries. That is why the demand for cement is very high, and that is why we can see production is also rising, capacity is also rising. Now, economic survey mentioned something specifically, that roughly around 85% of India's cement production comes from 11 states. Which are these 11 states? So, for example, Rajasthan, Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, UP, Chhattisgarh and West Bengal. Roughly they account for 85% of India's cement production. Now, there is one problem which has been mentioned in the economic survey, that even if our cement production is very high, etc., our population is big, we require more real estate, more houses, more school, hospital, etc. So, if you look at the global per capita cement consumption, it's roughly around 540 kg per capita. The Indian per capita cement consumption is 290 kg per capita, which means that we are taking the total population in the denominator, in the numerator we are taking the total cement consumption. So our per capita cement consumption even today is very less, because our population is more and we need to develop more infrastructure. For that, more cement should be produced. So that is important here. Now, let's look at the coal industry. Coal is the second sector. Now, in terms of coal, let us look at India's rank in terms of coal reserve. So, India ranks 5th in the world in terms of coal reserve. In terms of consumption, our rank is ranked 2nd. Now, if you look at the contribution of coal, so bacho, if you look at the national energy mix, which means there are various sources of energy, solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, geothermal energy, nuclear energy, various sources of energy. If you look at all the sources of energy, so what is the contribution of coal? 55%. But if you look at electricity generation, what is the contribution of coal in terms of total electricity generation? 74%. So in terms of energy mix, contribution of coal 55%, electricity 74%. Now 2024 was a very special year according to economic survey, because economic survey says that the production of coal in India in 2024 has been the highest so far. India has never produced that much coal that we produced in 2024. And what was the production? 1047 metric tons. That was the highest ever produced in India. We should memorize this. Now, there is a ratio which is domestic production to domestic consumption. So, bacho, imagine that in the denominator we are taking domestic consumption, and we know that India is consuming, for example, more coal, because coal is also one of the sources of energy, etc. So, electricity and all. So, we are using more coal. So, consumption of coal is rising. But imagine that along with consumption, production is also rising. So, what will happen if you take a ratio of production to consumption? Suppose consumption is rising, but production is also rising. Then what will happen to the ratio? The value of the ratio will increase, because numerator will increase faster, denominator will also increase. But suppose our production rate of growth is higher, we are producing at a faster pace, then what will happen to this ratio? This ratio will increase. So what is happening in India? Ideally, this ratio should increase. So yes, this ratio is increasing. So our production to consumption ratio is rising, which means our production is rising faster. Now let us come to the steel sector, very, very crucial sector again. Now India is the second largest producer of crude steel in the world. But there is one problem in the Indian steel. If you look at the Indian steel, you can see that iron is converted into steel using coking coal as one of the inputs. India has ample amount of iron, But the coking coal that we require, we import it, specifically from countries like Australia, Canada, USA, Russia. We import this coking coal from these countries at a high price, which is very costly. So now what has happened over a period of time is, because of trade war and other global scenario, there are other producers of steel also in the world, like Canada, USA, China. So they reduced the price of their steel because they were not able to sell it, so they reduced the price. On the other hand, what did India do? Since India is importing coking coal from outside, which is costly, so India's cost of production of steel is high. So anyway, our steel is costly and the global steel became relatively cheaper. So our steel looks relatively costly, because of which even the people in India who want to buy steel, they are importing the steel, because Indian steel looks costly, because global steel is cheaper and India is using costly coke to manufacture steel. This is one of our big problems. So over a period of time, you will see, if you look at this graph, what has happened in India? Production of coal has increased, production of steel has increased. You will see consumption of steel has increased. You will see that export of steel has come down because our steel is relatively costly, and you will see that import of steel has increased because foreign steel is cheaper than Indian steel. So what has the government of India done? Government of India has established two good schemes to improve the production and export of steel in India. First is called Production Linked Incentive Scheme. This is the first scheme. I'll give an example to you. So what happens in Production Linked Incentive Scheme, suppose in the year 2025, a factory produces, this is the factory which produces steel worth 100 crore. In the year 2026, the factory produces steel worth 150 crores. So what is the absolute increase in the production of steel? Absolute increase is 50 crore worth of increase in the sale of steel. So the steel was produced by the factory and it was sold. How much money did the factory get? 100 crore and then 150 crore, absolute increase 50 crore. Now, the government of India says that, for example, 10% of absolute increase, this is called incremental sale. So 10% of incremental sale, how much is 10% of 50 crore? 5 crore. So this 5 crore is the subsidy given by government of India to this factory. This is called as Production Linked Incentive Scheme. So now we are having a Production Linked Incentive Scheme where government has kept 6,322 crores to be given as subsidy to the steel industry. And second, the government has also launched a mission Coking Coal 2022. Why did the government launch it? Because we know that India needs coking coal. So government wants to increase the production of coking coal from 45 metric ton to 140 metric tons by the year 2030. So what is the government doing that? For that, we are giving more coal mines, allocating more blocks to the private sector so that they can get more coking coal for India. We are reviving some old mines also where coking coal is present, and we are creating more washeries so that coking coal, when it is taken from the ground, extracted from the ground, so excavation and extraction. So washeries, what they do is they wash the coking coal and remove the impurities so that only pure coking coal is left. Right, if you mix impurities, then heat value is less. If you want to increase the heat value, you have to remove impurities, and that is what is done using washeries. So these are the schemes that the government of India is doing for steel industry. Now let us look at the chemical and the petrochemical sector in India. Now, what is the contribution of chemical and petrochemical sector in India's manufacturing gross value added? 8.1% in the year 2023. Now, is the contribution of chemical and petrochemical in India's manufacturing gross value added rising? Yeah, it is increasing. In fact, economic survey says that between the year 2015 and 2024, the petrochemical and the chemical sector has increased at the rate of 2.8%. A growth rate of 2.8% has been observed. Now, next is capital goods sector. You understand, Bachu, that capital goods is very important for industrialization. If you open any factory, for example, even if you open a simple factory like an ice cream factory, a chocolate factory, etc., there also you require some machines. Some basic machines are required. But if you open sophisticated industries, for example, industries to manufacture LED or mobile phone, you require sophisticated machines and capital goods. So capital goods are basically machines, equipments and tools. So what has happened in India? Because we are putting more efforts in improving industries, we are putting more efforts in improving infrastructure in India, more capital goods are required. So what is India doing? India is increasing the manufacturing of capital goods, but some of the advanced capital goods we are importing also. Because India is investing a lot in infrastructure and industries, so some of the capital goods we are manufacturing, some of the capital goods we are importing. Both the things are observed in India. So as you can see what is happening in India. Our capital goods production is rising. As you can see production is rising. You can see that our import is also rising, production is rising, import is also rising, and our export is also rising. Why is our export rising? Because we are also exporting some medium level and slightly advanced level capital goods, and the most advanced level capital goods we are importing, and thoda low level capital goods and medium level we are exporting. So we are producing also, we are exporting also, we are importing also. What are we importing? High level capital goods. What are we exporting? Medium level and slightly high level, right? So now you can see what is the contribution of capital goods sector in India's GDP? 2%. 2% of our GDP comes from capital goods. Now the government of India has started a scheme for improving the production of capital goods in India. I'll give an example to you. The name of the scheme is Scheme on Enhancement of Competitiveness in Indian Capital Goods Sector. This is the name of the scheme. This scheme has been launched in two phases. One is 2014 to 2021 and second is 2022 onwards. What did the government do in phase 1? In phase 1, government selected roughly 30 very specific type of capital goods. For example, machine tools, textile machines, welding, robots, sensor technology. So these are basic tools plus advanced. It's a combination. So Government of India made a list of 30 tools and government said, I'm going to promote this by giving incentive to the producer of these tools. This was done in phase 1 and Government of India allocated a budget of 583 crore. In phase 2nd, Government of India increased the budget to 964 crore and here the government is saying whenever a new tool or a new machine is made, there should be testing services available. Number 2, skill training should be given to workers. And number 3, there must be a good bond and coordination between industry and academic institutions where research and development happens so that we can create great quality capital goods and tools in India. So under this scheme, in 2 phases, capital goods are being manufactured in India. In fact, our capital goods production of some of the advanced level capital goods has been so good that we are also able to export it to some countries like France, Belgium and Qatar, which is a good thing. Now, let us look at automobile sector in India. So, bacho, what is the contribution of automobile in India's GDP? Roughly around 7.1%. What is the total market of automobile sector in India? Roughly around 13 lakh crores. Now, if you look at the rank of India, overall rank of India in automobile, it's roughly around rank 3rd or rank 4th. But if you specifically look at the 2-wheeler and 3-wheeler production in India related to automobile, our rank is rank 1. If you look at the rank of India in the manufacturing of passenger vehicles and commercial vehicle, our rank is rank 3rd. In fact, our automobile market is so good and the sale is so good that 15% of our GST collection comes from automobile sector, 15% of the GST. How much is the employment generated in the automobile sector? Roughly around 3 crore. And in fact, if you look at the automobile production in India, between the year 2013 to 2024, the production in automobile sector jumped by 33%, which is a huge jump, which means that India is producing a lot of automobile. India is domestically selling a lot of automobile. India is exporting automobile also, as we can see from the trend that our production is also rising. See, our production is rising. Number 2, our domestic sale is also rising and our export is also rising. And recently, you would have noticed that the Government of India reduced the GST on automobile so that the middle class of India can also afford automobile at a slightly lower market price, and it boosted the sale of automobile in India. And in fact, you can also see that there has been an increase in the registration of electric vehicles in India also. So guys, now we are going to look at some of the schemes related to automobile sector and electric vehicles in India, which is boosting the performance of automobile sector. So Bacho, I'm going to tell you some stories related to all the schemes of automobile sector. So the first scheme of automobile sector is called as National Electric Mobility Mission Plan 2020. So what happened is, in the year 2013, the Government of India made a plan, which is this plan, where the government said that if government and private sector come together and they try to manufacture electric vehicles in India itself, then what will happen is, through this collaboration between government and private, by the year 2020, India will be able to sell 6 to 7 million, which means 60 to 70 lakh electric vehicles in India every year. This was the plan, right? And Government of India through this plan wanted to make the electric vehicle more affordable in India. This was the first plan. Now, then the Government of India launched a program called as Faster Adoption and Manufacturing of Hybrid Electric Vehicles, called as FAME. This program was launched in two phases, phase 1, phase 2. In phase 1, 2015 to 2019, which means that for these 5 years, the Government of India allocated 895 crore rupees. What was the government doing here in this phase? So Government of India said that there are 4 focus areas of the government related to electric vehicles under FAME. Which are the 4 focus areas? First, development of technology related to electric vehicles. Number 2, creation of demand. How does the government create demand? So if I'm going to buy electric vehicle, Government of India from its side will give me subsidy. Let's say 10%, 20%. Discount on the price of the electric vehicle. So demand creation. Third is pilot project. So if somebody wants to create a new type of electric vehicle or do experiments in India, government says that I will provide the funding and the support. The next is charging infrastructure. So whenever you manufacture electric vehicle, of course you need charging infrastructure. So these are the 4 focus areas in FAME phase 1 between 2015 to 2019. Now comes FAME phase 2. In phase 2, the Government of India took the time frame 2019 to 2024 and allocated 10,000 crore rupees. Do you see the jump from 895 crore to 10,000 crore? And here the Government of India's focus is to use electric vehicles in public transportation, e-buses, passenger cars and two-wheelers. So Government of India started to promote more of passenger vehicles, which is electric vehicles for the use of passengers. And here also the Government of India's focus was charging infrastructure along with electric vehicles. Now, so after 2 phases, 15 to 19, 19 to 24, in the year 2024, the Government of India did not launch phase 3 of this. Instead of phase 3, government launched a program called PM E-Drive scheme. So what is E-Drive scheme? So Ministry of Heavy Industries, they allocated rupees 10,900 crore, and the Ministry of Heavy Industries says that under the scheme called as E-Drive, the focus of the government is to increase the adoption of electric vehicles, which means to make the public more accepting in terms of using electric vehicles. And how do you make the public more motivated to use electric vehicle? By giving them discount. So if the price of the electric vehicle is 10 lakh rupees, under this scheme, E-Drive scheme, a 15% discount will be given and the price of the vehicle will become 8.5 lakh rupees. The third component and focus area of the scheme is to create more charging facilities, which is charging infrastructure. And fourth is to create such a domestic system so that starting from inputs to manufacturing to service, everything related to electric vehicle can be done in India. Now, under this, the government also wanted to deploy, which means use e-buses, electric buses in major cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi and Ahmedabad. These are the 4 cities where the government wants to launch the electric buses. Now, under this scheme, bacho, the Government of India has also said something very unique. So, Government of India has said that BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, it's a public sector enterprise under Ministry of Heavy Industries. It has been given responsibility to create a mobile app called as Super App. So for example, if you have electric vehicle and you go to charge your vehicle, for charging you need to book slots. So through Super App you can book the slots, you can make the payment and charging can be done. So the government's focus area is to improve charging experience of the public by investing more in the charging infrastructure. So this scheme is called as PM E-Drive Scheme 2024. Now there is another scheme related to electric vehicles in India. It is called as Production Linked Incentive Scheme for Batteries. So bacho, there are 2 production linked incentive scheme in electric vehicle. One is for battery and one is for the electric vehicle itself. Okay, so let us first study the scheme for batteries. So the name of the scheme is National Program on Advanced Chemistry Cell Battery Storage 2021. Right. It is also under Ministry of Heavy Industries and it is a PLI. So under it, the government has allocated 18,100 crore rupees. So I'll tell you what happens under it. So suppose bacho, I want to manufacture batteries for electric vehicle in India. I open my factory today. Government of India says that in the next 2 years, if I am making batteries, so suppose that this is the battery of the electric vehicle. So in this battery, if 100 components are used, when I establish a factory, out of 100 components, at least 25% components must be local Indian components. And in 5 years, which means first 2 years 25% component must be Indian. In total 5 years, not 7, but after 3 more years, it becomes 5. So in 5 years, if there are 100 components in this battery, out of that roughly 60% component must be Indian. So what should be the value addition? In first 2 years 25%, overall in total in 5 years 60% value addition should happen. If a factory or industry is able to achieve these two targets, 25% in first 2 years and 60% in total 5 years, so then the industry is eligible to get benefit under PLI, production linked incentive, and that industry is related to battery industry. Okay. So now there is another scheme in production linked incentive which is called as PLI for automobile and auto component. So this is for battery and this is for automobile. So for automobile, government has allocated 25,938 crores, and here the government says if there is any factory which wants to manufacture either electric vehicles or vehicle which uses hydrogen as fuel, for two type of vehicles, electric vehicle and hydrogen. If I create a factory, government says in the first year itself, from first year itself, at least 50% of the components that I am using must be Indian. So in the production linked incentive scheme related to automobile sector, especially electric vehicle and hydrogen based fuel vehicle, if I am creating a factory in India where I am manufacturing electric vehicles, then out of 100 components, at least 50 components must be Indian from first year itself. Then I will get the benefit of PLI. But for the advanced chemistry cell, which is the battery of the electric vehicle, in the first 2 years, 25% domestic value addition, in the 5 years, 60% value addition. But for automobile, from the first year itself, 50% component must be Indian. These two are PLI. So, bachcho, now we are going to look at another scheme called as Scheme to Promote Manufacturing of Electric Passenger Cars in India 2024. This scheme is also maintained by Ministry of Heavy Industries. Let us see what this scheme is. So, see, suppose there is a multinational, a big company in the world, which is manufacturing electric cars. We want the company to come to India. So, Government of India says, if a multinational comes to India and wants to manufacture electric vehicles in India, so it can establish its factory like this, and government says that if they import any inputs related to the electric vehicle, if they import the inputs or the structure of the car from their other factories across the world, government says they will get 15% discount on custom duties. But the government says you will get 15% discount on custom duties if you import some parts in India related to electric vehicle only if you fulfill the following condition. Condition number 1. Your minimum global revenue must be 10,000 crore. So you might have other factories elsewhere, so across the world. So your global revenue should be 10,000 crore. Your minimum global fixed assets should be 3,000 crore, which means you must be having factories, machines, equipments worth 3,000 crore. And when you come to India, within the first 3 years of coming to India, your investment in India should be rupees 4,150 crore. This is your capital expenditure in factories, equipment, machine in the first 3 years of your coming to India. Then this last eligibility condition says, in this factory, when it comes to India, in the first 3 years, 25% component must be domestic, and in 5 years, at least 50% components must be domestic. So Government of India says that the final condition is that when this factory starts to operate, in the first 3 years, 25% of the component used in this electric vehicle that they produced must be Indian, and in the 5 years, at least 50% of their components must be Indian. So these are the schemes which are related to automobile sector in India. Now, let us look at electronic sector, which is also very important for us. Guys, you know that India exports a lot of items. For example, food processing industry, steel, cement, electronics, defense. These are the items that we export. So if you make a list of items that India exports, you will see electronics goods have become the second largest export out of India in the recent times as per economic survey. So economic survey says that the rank of electronics in the year 2021 was 7th largest exported item of India. But currently in the year 2025, it became the second largest exported item out of India, electronics item. And economic survey specifically mentions that especially in the category of mobile phone, our global rank in terms of production is ranked second. We are the second largest producer of mobile phone, and we are also a huge exporter of mobile phone in the world currently. So as you can see in our electronics, our production has increased. See bacho, production is rising. You can see our export is also rising. Dekhiye, our export is rising, but so is our import. So how is it possible that we are importing also, exporting also? So basically we are exporting low value electronic items and we are importing high value electronic items. That's what we are doing. So government says we must create policies in India so that in India itself we can create high value electronic items so that our dependence on other goes down. So let us see what are the schemes which the government has launched for that. So bacho, the first scheme that we have to study is production linked incentive scheme for large scale electronic manufacturing. So see, if somebody is opening a mobile manufacturing company in India, semiconductor manufacturing, capacitor manufacturing, government of India says, if you increase your production and sale, whatever is your increase in sale from one year to another, based on that, 3 to 6% incentives or subsidies will be given. Remember, I told you that in the year 2025, if the sale of electronic is 100 crore, in the year 2026, the sale is 150 crore. So government says total increase is 50 crore. So government says 6% of 50 crore, right? So government is going to give you 6% of 50 crore, which is roughly around 3 crores to you in the form of subsidy. So this is called large scale electronic manufacturing. It started in 2020 to give incentive to electronic manufacturer. The second scheme related to electronics is production linked incentive 2.0 for IT hardware 2023. So here also the government of India has allocated 17,000 crore rupees, and government is saying anybody who is manufacturing laptop, tablet, personal computer, server, etc., if they increase their production from one year to another and they increase their sale, then they will get 1 to 4% incentives to do that, right? Now there is a third scheme which is called as Electronic Component Manufacturing Scheme ECMS 2025. For this scheme, the government of India has allocated 22,919 crore. I'll tell you something interesting related to this. See, that if you create a factory in India and you manufacture some essential electronic components, for example, capacitor, for example, semiconductor, etc. So government says there are some electronic components which are so essential that without them, industries like laptop and mobile phone will not work. So government is saying government wants that those items should be manufactured within India itself. So suppose there is a factory which wants to manufacture something very basic in electronics. So government says that if you do it, then suppose that you are increasing your production every year. So this year you produced worth 100 crore, next year you produced worth 150 crore. So you have increased your production by 50 crore. So government says your total increase in production and sale is 50 crore. So government is ready to give 4 to 6% of 50 crore. 50 crore is the increase in production. So what is 6% of 50 crore? 3 crore. So government says 3 crore I am ready to give you as incentive. That is incentive number one. Incentive number two. Government says if you open a factory to manufacture some essential electronic components, then suppose in your factory the total investment that is there is 1 crore rupees example. So government says if you use machines, equipments and tools, and if you are creating sufficient employment, then whatever investment you have done in your factory in machines and equipment, uska 25% government will give you as subsidy. So if 1 crore you have invested in creating this factory and you are creating good amount of employment, so out of 1 crore, 25 lakh government will give you as subsidy. That is the second scheme. Third, government says if you are creating something really interesting, which India desperately wants in electronics, government says both the schemes will be given to you. Number one, if you increase your production, you will get PLI kind of facility, which means 4 to 6% of increase in production. And second, the government is saying that whatever machines and equipments and tools you have bought, for that also you will get 25% subsidy. That is the third incentive. So in this scheme, there are 3 incentives available. The first is called as turnover incentive, second is called capex incentive, third is called hybrid incentive. Hybrid incentive means you will get both turnover and capex incentive. And turnover incentive, guys, as I told you, if the electronic company is able to sell products with more turnover. So first year you are selling for 100 crore, second year 150 crore. So 50 crore is the extra turnover. So you'll get incentive for that. That is called turnover incentive. So this is that scheme. Now let us look at another scheme. The next scheme is called Electronics Manufacturing Cluster 2012, and it was also amended in 2020. What is this scheme? See. So bacho, imagine that this is a plot of land. How much is the plot size? 100 acres. Example. Now suppose that I am going to create, so I am a businessman, entrepreneur, I am a property developer. What I do is, I am creating small factories here. I am giving water, I am giving electricity facility, I am giving transportation facility, and I am giving basic machines also. So this is almost like a park or a zone where everything which is required to start an electronic industry is provided. So for example, let's say that I want to manufacture capacitors or motherboard of computer, right? So what I'll do is, I'll come to this place, I will pay the rent, and I will get all my inputs and factories and everything, and I will start the production of motherboard here. Now, this type of place is called as electronic manufacturing cluster, where all the industries who are producing parts of computers will be located here. We have to pay rent and we can use it. And there is a property developer who will develop. So the person who is the property developer, right, who comes here, so what he will get is, if he is trying to create a project like this, and suppose the cost of the project is 80 crore, the government says, Government of India will give 50% of 80 crore, which is 40 crore as subsidy to the property developer, subject to a maximum of 50 crore, which means more than 50 crore per 100 acre will not be given. So if 100 acre is the land, maximum 50 crore, otherwise half of your project cost. This is for greenfield project, new project. But suppose a cluster like this already exists. For example, there is a cluster like this in Tamil Nadu. So here, all the factories who produce keyboard of the computer are located. We want to make it modernized. We want to improve the facility. So government says, if anybody wants to improve the facility, suppose cost of improvement is 1 crore. 1 crore is the cost of improvement. Government says, I will give 75% of that as subsidy to you. So 1 crore ka 75% is 75 lakh will be given. Maximum of 50 crore for improvement also. So for new project, maximum 50 crore. For improvement also, maximum 50 crore. But for new project, half of the cost, subject to maximum of 50 crore per 100 acres. And for brownfield project, 75% of the cost, subject to a maximum of rupees 50 crore per project. So in greenfield project, maximum is maximum 50 crore per 100 acres of land. But for brownfield, the maximum is maximum 50 crore, not for 100 acres, but per project basis. This is called as electronic manufacturing cluster. Now recently it has been reformed, and government is saying that in these clusters also more infrastructure should be provided and more testing facility should be provided to test the quality of products created in India. So these are some of the schemes which are related to electronics. There is another scheme related to electronics, which is called a scheme for promotion of manufacturing of electronic components and semiconductors. So bacho, you understand that without semiconductor, there are many other industries which cannot function. For example, aircraft, aviation, automobile, computers, etc. So Government of India started a scheme in the year 2020 where the government said, if anybody starts to manufacture semiconductor in India, and to manufacture that, you establish a factory. Suppose the cost of establishment of the factory is 100 crore. So government used to say that 25% of 100 crore, which means 25 crore will be given to you in the form of subsidy. But now this scheme has been removed. It has been merged under production linked incentive scheme. So it is gone. Now comes your another scheme which is called as India Semiconductor Mission 2021. Very important. It has been discussed by the government in today's budget also. So what is India Semiconductor Mission? So bacho, you understand no that as I was telling you that without semiconductor, there are other industries and sectors which cannot produce goods. For example, automobile, spacecraft, mobile phone, laptops, tablets, they cannot be manufactured without semiconductor. It's a very important input. Semiconductor also requires various type of components. One could be fabrication unit, one could be the display unit, one is the assembly unit. So there are various types of factories which are required to create a successful semiconductor plant in India. So what has government done? Government has launched a semiconductor mission in 2021 under Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology by allocating 76,000 crore, where the government says if anybody is opening a fabrication unit of semiconductor or display unit of semiconductor like LED, etc., LED screen, if you are manufacturing those things, one is fabrication unit, number one, number two is LED, display units, and the third is compound semiconductor. If anybody is establishing factory for these things, the government says whatever is the cost of creating the factory, 50% of that will be given to you in the form of subsidy, 50% subsidy, okay? And now there is a fourth component also. The fourth component is called Modified Design Linked Scheme. For this, government has allocated 1,000 crore rupees, and here the government says if anybody opens a research and development facility related to semiconductors, research and development facility, okay, like for example related to design, related to experiments, whatever is the money that you are spending in research and development, government will reimburse you the money. Similarly, government says if anybody is opening a factory related to chip design, only the design part, then government says for every such factory, rupees 15 crore, 15 crore per company will be given as subsidy. So first of all, 15 crore will be given per company as subsidy, and then whatever is the cost of research and development during experiments, whatever is the cost, that will be reimbursed and returned by the government. This is a very ambitious scheme and government is very serious about it. Why? Because during COVID, we faced extreme shortage of semiconductor chips and devices. So that's why government has launched this scheme. Now, bachcho, we are going to see one important sector which is mentioned in the economic survey, which is pharmaceutical sector in India. And we know that India is one of the global leaders in pharmaceutical. So let us see what is the importance of pharmaceutical in India. So now see, what is the rank of India in terms of manufacturing of medicine by volume? Our global rank is ranked third. Now, if you look at the generic medicine are the medicines whose patent has expired and there is nobody who can own the formula. It is available for everyone. So 20% of the world's generic medicine is supplied by India. That is the second. Third, India exports medicine to 191 countries in fact. And in fact, more than 50% of India's export of medicine goes to those countries which normally do not allow medicine from other countries. They are very sort of restrictive and conservative about buying medicine. Countries like, for example, US and Europe, they generally don't buy medicine from all the countries in the world. But more than 50% of Indian medicine goes to US and Europe. Now, if you look at the rank of India in terms of export of medicine, our rank is rank 11th. If you look at the global share of Indian medicine, India has a global share of 3% in the medicines. So it shows that we are very strongly present in terms of medicine in the world. If you look at low cost vaccines, for example, vaccine related to TB, diphtheria, these kind of things, or tetanus or BCG. If you look at these kind of vaccines and medicines, low cost vaccines especially, India is a global leader. So this is our strength. If you look at medical devices also, bachcho, the rank of India, global rank of India in terms of medical devices production is rank 18th. But one thing has happened in India, which is a positive thing. From low level of medical devices like oximeter and thermometer, India has started to produce high level devices also thanks to our electronic industry. And now India produces CT scan machine, MRI machine, ventilator, all these things. We are also exporting this. So you can see that over a period of time, if you look at the growth of export of Indian pharmaceutical, you will see that our export in the medicine industry is rising. See this trend. So which are some of the schemes which the government of India has launched related to medicine? I'll tell you. There is one problem which India faces. The problem is, even today, there are many inputs of the medicine called as active pharmaceutical ingredients which comes from China. And some important APIs come from China itself. So government has launched production linked incentive scheme for bulk drugs. Government has also launched PLI for medical devices. And government has also launched another scheme, which is scheme to improve the strength of medical devices industry 2024 by giving 500 crore rupees. All these schemes are meant for two things. One is medicine, one is medical equipment. This is our pharmaceutical industry. Now guys, let us look at the importance of textile sector as mentioned in the economic survey. Now, What is the rank of textile sector in terms of global export? 6th. Indian textiles rank is rank 6th. Now, what is the share of Indian textile in global export? 3.9%. Indian textile creates a job of 3.5 crores. The contribution of Indian textile sector in India's GDP is 2%, and the contribution of textile sector in manufacturing gross value added is 11%. I want to tell you something related to textile sector. You know, when trade war started and US imposed tariff on India, our textile sector became one of the worst hit sectors because it was not able to compete against the price of textile of other countries, like Bangladesh or, for example, China. So that is reflected in this data which is given in the economic survey. You can see that if you compare the export data of textile between 24-25 and 25-26, you will see that export almost stagnated. Import is, we also import a little bit of textile, but it's very less. Majorly we are exporters. Now similarly, if you look at the figure here, which can come in prelims, that out of the Indian textile exports, which is the dominant export out of India in terms of textile. So you can see that 42.7% of India's export in terms of textile is ready-made garments. The second highest export in textile is the category called cotton textile, and the third highest export is man-made textile, 14%. So 42% of our textile export is ready-made garments, 32% cotton, and 14% man-made textile. If you remember just these three, it should be good for the exam. Now guys, so what is India's specialty in terms of textile as mentioned in the economic survey? So see, economic survey says that India is world's #1 cotton and jute cultivator and world #2 in silk. Economic survey also says two things. Economic survey says that historically, since India is one of the largest producer of cotton and steel in the world, cotton and silk in the world, so India has always focused on textile products based on cotton. Whereas over a period of time, the world demand has been moving away from cotton towards man-made fibers like polyester, nylon, rayon, etc. Only recently India has started to focus on the man-made fibers, and we are doing well in that. So recently India has also emerged as hub of man-made fibers. Not that great of a hub, but yes, we are on the rising and we are improving there. Now let us look at some of the schemes which the government of India has launched to promote the textile sector in India. So the first scheme that the government has launched, which is a very strong scheme, is called Production Linked Incentive Scheme for Man-Made Fibers and Technical Textile. But your technical textile means the special textile product which is used in the dress that the firefighters wear or the dress which astronauts wear, right? They have some special character and feature. So India was not very strong in that. In man-made fiber also India was not very strong. So we launched a production linked incentive scheme to make it possible for Indian producers and global producers to come to India and make India self-sufficient in man-made fiber and technical textile through PLI scheme. The second most important scheme related to textile is PM Mega Integrated Textile Region and Apparel Park, called as PM Mitra. What is PM Mitra? I'll give an example to you. So suppose bacho that we are taking minimum 1000 acres of land. So suppose this is 1000 acres of land. In this land, we want to give end-to-end facility. For example, inputs, electricity, water supply, factories, basic machines, packaging, transportation, every facility will be there. And if I am a person who knows how to convert cotton into textile, I can come there and take the place on rent. I can create my own little small factory because all the facilities are there. I can produce and I can export, I can sell domestically also. This is called as textile park, called as Mitra, PM Mitra, and there are 7 such textile parks in India already. Now, what is the government's help given to such textile parks? So government of India says if some developer is creating this park as a new park, greenfield park, then government of India gives up to rupees 500 crore per park, called as development capital support, which is 500 crore rupees. And if there are industries inside this, if these industries are able to increase production, then to incentivize them, if they increase production, then whatever is their increase in production, the government gives roughly 3% of the increase in production as incentive, something like PLI. So if they increase the production, 3% of the increase in production is given to them as incentives. and the total amount of incentives available for all the factories here, if they are able to increase production, is up to 300 crores per park. So 500 crore is given to develop infrastructure and 300 crore is given as performance bonus to them. This performance bonus is called competitiveness incentive support. CIS, competitiveness incentive support. So this is given for a greenfield park. But if the park already exists and suppose the companies in the park want to improve the infrastructure facilities and modernize them, then they get rupees 200 crore per park for machines and modernization. And for these units, incentive bonus is given, which is rupees 300 crore per park, which is given based on their increase in production. 3% of increase in production is given as bonus. This is called PM Mitra scheme. Now there is another scheme in India for textile, which is called as National Technical Textile Mission 2020. Now for this, Government of India has allocated 1,480 crore and it is being implemented by Ministry of Textile. What is this scheme? Under this scheme, the Government of India says that in technical textile, which means the special textile which I told you is used for spacecrafts, astronauts dress and uniform of firefighters, etc. So to increase the production of this technical textile, the Government of India wants to train 50,000 individuals in technical textile and also wants to promote four components. Number one, research and innovation, promotion and marketing, export promotion, education, training and skill development of 50,000 individuals. So these four things are being done under National Technical Textile Mission. Now there is a fourth component which is called as Quality Control Order 2025 for man-made fiber. So see guys, you know that initially India was only focusing on cotton textile, but now we are also focusing on man-made fiber like polyester, rayon, nylon, and we have become a hub. But quality is also important. If we only keep on producing nylon and polyester and nobody wants to buy it because quality is not that great, because these are artificial fibers which are grown in lab and factories. So if the quality is not good, nobody will buy that. That is one of the reasons that Government of India has introduced quality standard called as QCO, which is Quality Control Order for man-made fiber, that what should be the strength, what should be the thickness, all these things are mentioned by the government. Only if you fulfill the criteria, you will be able to export, you will be able to sell in India. Otherwise, your product will be banned. So this is Quality Control Order. So these are the schemes related to textile. So now guys, it is the right time that we observe some of the key reforms that the Economic Survey has suggested so that Indian manufacturing can go on to the next stage and we can also dominate the world. Reform number 1. The Economic Survey says that one of the most important reforms which can help India to create high value items using more technology, creating products which have more features. So one of the key reforms that the Economic Survey says India must maintain is called Production Linked Incentive Scheme, which we have already seen. So we are going to do a quick review of what has been said in the Economic Survey about the performance of Production Linked Incentive Scheme. So Economic Survey says that the Production Linked Incentive Scheme started in 2020. Currently, there are 14 sectors which are covered in the Production Linked Incentive Schemes, which is the 14th sector to be included. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 14 sectors are there. So which is the 14th sector? Drone is the 14th sector to be included in PLI. What is the total budget that the Government of India has allocated to be given to all the 14 sectors? Approximately 2 lakh crores, but to be precise, 1.97 lakh crore is the fund which government has created to be given to the 14 sectors. Now, what is the performance of Production Linked Incentive Scheme in India? This question, by the way, was also asked in UPSC Mains 2025, where they asked the critical evaluation of Production Linked Incentive Scheme. So these kind of questions are important. A direct answer was given in the Economic Survey of last year also. This year also we are doing it. So if you look at the Production Linked Incentive Scheme, you will see that those companies which are getting the benefit of Production Linked Incentive Scheme, in total, they have invested roughly around rupees 2 lakh crore so far in India. So from 14 sectors, fresh investment of rupees 2 lakh crore has already come from the time that they started to get the benefit of PLI. Fact number 2, incremental sale of rupees 18.7 lakh crore. So guys, you understand that since the time the 14 sectors started to get the benefit of PLI, they have sold various goods that they are creating, and the value of that extra sale is roughly around rupees 19 lakh crores, 18.7. Third, how much employment has been generated in those 14 sectors since the year 2020? 12.6 lakh employment opportunities, direct plus indirect employment has been generated. Achha, how much has the government provided from its side? Because government said that government is going to provide rupees 1.97 lakh crores. So out of this fund, how much has the government already released so far in the form of incentives? So it's roughly around 23,946 crore. So how much incentive has the government already released? 23,946 crore in 12 sectors, right? So this is one of the criticisms, that the government is releasing the incentives little slow. Now, what is the value of the export through PLI? So through the PLI scheme, India has been able to achieve export worth rupees 8.2 lakh crore, and especially the export has come in sectors like electronics, pharmaceutical and telecom. These are the three sectors where we have been able to increase our export a lot. So this is the positive side of PLI. What is the negative side? Some of the sectors of PLI have not done well, which economic survey doesn't talk about. For example, steel sector, it has not done that well. One of the second criticism of PLI is the representation of MSMEs could be increased further in production linked incentive scheme. The third criticism of PLI is that the process of releasing the incentives is very slow, which means that ease of doing business can be improved. Employment generation also not has been up to the mark. So these are some of the criticisms of PLI. So overall, according to economic survey, PLI is doing well, but I also told you some criticisms which you must add in your answer. So the first reform is that PLI should continue, and according to economic survey, the success of PLI can be seen in especially two sectors. One is mobile and one is pharmaceutical industry in India. Because guys, you know that earlier India was the net importer of mobile phone, now India is the net exporter of mobile phone thanks to PLI. Now, the second scheme which economic survey this time discusses in detail is called National Manufacturing Mission. The government of India has mentioned a roadmap that what do they want to achieve in National Manufacturing Mission as mentioned in the economic survey 2025-26. Let us see. So the government says that under National Manufacturing Mission, government has set target for the year 2035. Which means government is saying that they want to achieve some targets by the year 2035. What is the first target through National Manufacturing Mission to be achieved by 2035? And these can be asked in prelims as well as mains. We want to increase the contribution of manufacturing to 25% of GDP. And what is the current contribution of manufacturing in our GDP? 12.8%, which is roughly around 13%. Currently, it's roughly around 13%. We want to make it 25% of GDP. Second, through manufacturing, we want to generate 143 million jobs. And mind you, our earlier target of job through manufacturing was 100 million. Now it is 143 million, which means 14.3 crores. We also want to increase merchandise export to $1.2 trillion. So now we want to export goods worth $1.2 trillion. And mind you, what kind of goods? High value goods. So these are the three targets that we have set under National Manufacturing Mission. Now, how will we achieve this? That's the point. So for that, Government of India is saying that they will use cluster model. I'll give an example. So Government of India is saying that, for example, we will go to Coimbatore and we will try to see the cluster related to defense. We will go to Pune and we'll try to see the cluster related to automobile. We'll go to, for example, Gujarat and see the cluster related to, let's say, textiles. Similarly, we can go to UP and see the cluster related to electronics manufacturing or defense manufacturing. So government is saying that government will select 20 to 30 important clusters of India which have the potential to create employment and export. Those clusters will be selected, and these clusters will be from different industries: food processing industry, electronic industry, medicine industry. From various industries we are going to select clusters. What will the government do then? After selecting the cluster, government is saying that those clusters will be divided into three types. Type 1, the government is going to put all the clusters related to automobile and pharma into first type, and the name of the type is called scale. And government says all the companies in India related to automobile and pharma, which means medicine, government is saying that government is going to open more factories and increase the size of the factory. When you produce more number of items in the same factory, then cost of production goes down. It is called economies of scale. So government is saying in automobile and pharma, the production level will be increased. Government is going to use the factories in better terms because we have unused capacity. So government is saying we are going to fully utilize our factories and increase the size of the factory. So for rapid expansion, so automobile and pharma will be called as scale category, where we are going to increase the size. The second category is called as fix and transform category. What is this category? Electronics and capital goods. Now in electronics and capital goods, bacho, as we have seen that some of the electronics and capital goods item that India produces are low value items, and high value items we buy from outside, we import. So government says India should not only produce low value items in electronics and capital goods, but we should also produce high value items in electronics and capital goods. That is called structural transformation. That is why it is called fix and transform. The third category of the clusters is related to semiconductor and electric vehicles, which we call as seed cluster. Why seed? Because these are new clusters, these are the new products where more innovation and research is required. So government is saying here, government will support them through better innovation and research facilities. This is how India will become global leader. So this is the agenda of National Manufacturing Mission. Now, the third important reform that the government is talking about is research and development. But you very well know that India is heavily criticized for its lack of research and development related to industries. So what has the government done in the economic survey? First, the government has presented a good side in the economic survey that, see, it's not that everything is so bad in our research and development. There are few bright spots also. And after mentioning the bright spot, the government has mentioned some challenges related to research and development, and they have also tried to give some solution. So one thing which I like about this chapter is that the government has been very pragmatic here. They have not tried to hide anything. So they have mentioned in a very transparent manner that there are some bright spots followed by bigger challenges, followed by a lot of efforts that is required to get success in research and development. But the government's hope is reflected in the chapter, that government feels that we can achieve this. So let me show you the bright spots as per the economic survey related to research and development. So bacho, unless we do research and innovation, our industries and manufacturing cannot succeed, because value addition happens through research only. So government is saying that if you look at the scientific research output rank based on the scholarly publication. So bacho, for example, I am a PhD scholar, I will publish a research paper. That is called scholarly publication. So in terms of number of scholarly publication, in 2010 our rank was 7th in the world. Currently our rank is 3rd in the world. So economic survey says that number of scholarly publication is really good. Mind you, they don't talk about the quality of the scholarly research, but numbers, they are saying that number wise we are the 3rd best. So that's fine, that's totally okay. That's one way of looking at it. The second is called as Global Innovation Index, which is released by World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. So it says that in 2019 our rank in global innovation was 66th, currently it is 38th. So our rank is improving. Now in terms of the environment related to business, our global rank is 12th as per WIPO. That in the sense of doing business in India, what is the environment like, how supportive is the government, basic things. So in terms of business culture and policy, we have policies like Startup India program, Stand Up India program. So overall our rank is 12th. How many startups are there in India currently? Registered startups with DPIIT 2 lakh, roughly 2 lakh. Now Bangalore, Delhi and Mumbai, they have been ranked in world's top 50 innovative clusters. So a lot of innovation, a lot of startups come from these 3 cities, Bangalore, Delhi and Mumbai. Now, if you look at India's rank in intellectual property rights. So for example, bacho, if I open a company and I create a logo and I create a name for myself, so I need to protect it, right? So that kind of protection is called trademark protection. Similarly, bacho, suppose that I create a design of let's say this digital pen, how should it look like? So I need to protect that design, right? So that is called as patent. Similarly, if I create any industrial process, like how to manufacture digital boards, so that is called industrial design. So this is also called as intellectual property right. So meaning of intellectual property right is protection which should be given to original innovator, design, formula, etc. So look at India's rank in terms of number of trademarks, patents and industrial design that we file. So India's rank in trademark is rank 4th, patent rank 6th and industrial design rank 7th. right? So that is also number. See, quality wise we are not discussing, we are discussing number, because economic survey only talks about numbers this year. So economic survey says number of patent, trademark, etc. is very huge in India. Now there is another indicator which shows the progress related to research and development. That indicator is called critical technology tracker. So now there is one Australian institute called as Australian Strategic Policy Institute. They published this rank which is called as critical technology tracker. So what they have done is, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, they have taken 64 critical technology, 64 type of critical technology. For example, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, aerospace, DNA related technology. There are many type of technology, semiconductor and all these things, energy, climate change. There are various types of high level technology they have listed, roughly 64 in total. Now this Australian strategic policy says out of 64, in 45 critical technology, India's global rank is under 5. India is top 5 country in the world in 45 out of these 64 critical technologies. So that way also government is saying that we have been able to achieve some success. I'll show you that. See, this table, this box number 8.6, it shows that which are the critical technologies which this Australian institute takes. Defense, space, robotics, transportation, quantum computing, biotechnology, green tech, vaccine, AI, computing, communication, advanced material and energy. And you can see that this is the rank of India in all this. We are in top 5. So this is what it says. You can also see that our rank in Global Innovation Index is also improving. You can see the number of patent applications we filed. You can see number of trademark registrations also increasing. You can also see that the number of startups in India has also been increasing. Now we have roughly around 2 lakh registered startups with DPIIT. Now, Bacho, as I told you that economic survey also talks about challenges and solutions related to research. So what is the challenge related to research we are facing? Challenge number 1, if India's GDP is 100 rupees, how much out of this 100 are we spending in research and development in India in total? 64 paisa, not even 1 rupee. So what is our expenditure in research and development? Total expenditure in research and development is 0.64% of GDP, which is smaller than the world average. That is the first point. Second point, you see, you look at the expenditure on research and development by US. So US spends 3.48% of its GDP on research, China spends 2.3% of its GDP on research, and South Korea spends 4.9% of its GDP on research. Now look at the second problem in India's research and development expenditure. So suppose we are spending overall 100 rupees in research and development. How much is the contribution by private sector in research and development in India? 41%. China 77, US 75, South Korea 79. So who is doing the heavy lifting or heavy expenditure in research and development in India? Government. It is less by private. That is also something to worry about. These two are the worries. Now what is the solution that the government of India has done? Obviously government of India's solution would revolve around motivating the private sector, right? So what has the government done? Government has done 3 things as per the economic survey. First, the government of India has passed an act of the parliament called as Anushandhan National Research Foundation Act 2023. Under this act, the government of India has mentioned that the main agenda would be to create facilities to give more money for research. Number 2, to set the agenda for research and to create partnership between industry and academic institutions in India. That is the agenda of this Anushandhan National Research Foundation Act 2023. Now what has the government done? Under the act, the government has created a scheme in India called as Research Development and Innovation Scheme RDI 2025 last year. Under this scheme, the government of India has allocated rupees 1 lakh crores. And what is the government doing under this scheme? Under this scheme, this 1 lakh crore has been allocated to promote artificial intelligence, robotics, space, climate change and digital technology. And how does the scheme work? So under the scheme, what happens is, government of India has given 1 lakh crore and created a fund called as Anushandhan National Research Fund, ANRF. And so for example, suppose that this is the fund. So government has put rupees 1 lakh crore here. Now government has said that the nodal agency who will manage this fund is the Department of Science and Technology. So now, if anyone in India, for example, a venture capitalist, angel investor, or let's say for example, development financial institutions like SIDBI, or for that matter any NBFC, if they want to give loan to research organizations, they can borrow money from this fund at a certain rate of interest. They can lend the money to research organizations. So suppose I am the government, I put the money in this fund. Now from this fund, money can be taken by venture capitalists, angel investors, NBFCs, or development financial institution like SIDBI, etc., and they can give the fund to others for research purposes. This is that fund. Why is it special? Because if this money reaches the right research institutes, you can imagine the quality of the research, how it will improve, because lack of fund proves to be a very strong bottleneck in research and development. So that is one. So what is the first thing that the government does? They have passed an act. The second thing that the government has done, they have created a scheme called RDI scheme. The third thing that the government has done is government has established many missions. For example, India AI mission, artificial intelligence mission, National Green Hydrogen mission, where the target is to create 5 million metric tons per year of green hydrogen by the year 2030. Quantum mission, where we want that India should become the hub of quantum computing. India is only the 7th country in the world which has created a mission related to quantum computing. So we are on a mission mode. In mission, what do? We select a time frame, we create a target, and we want to achieve that. So to improve research in India, 3 types of things are being done. First is ANRF Act, the second is RDI scheme, and the third is mission mode. Now, so Bacho, I want to ask you one more question. If India wants to become a powerhouse of manufacturing, so for example, let's say we have manufactured this water bottle. Now, suppose I drink water from it and fall sick. So would you call India's manufacturing a success? No? Yes, not possible. Which means that whenever we produce a product, don't you think government should create a protocol that how much chemical should be added here? Similarly, when somebody manufactures a mobile phone in India, don't you feel that safety, security, quality standards must be mentioned related to it? Yes. So all these safety, security and quality standards which government creates for various sectors and industries is called as Quality Control Order, QCO. So quality control order are those instruments or guidelines which the government passes, which industry or a particular sector has to maintain in India to give consumer benefits and to create good quality products. Now in India, slowly awareness is coming, and over a period of time, the government and various ministries have created quality control standards, QCO, for various type of products. So between 2019 and 23, the number of QCOs created in India has become 3 times, as you can see. Dekhiye, see. So earlier the number of quality control orders were less. Now see how it is jumping, which is very important, so that India should be able to create good quality products so that we can export also and we can use domestically. You remember that some spices were exported by India which were toxic. They had traces of mercury inside them. Similarly, some cough syrups were exported by India which led to the loss of life of some children in foreign countries. So it should not happen. We should be more careful and responsible related to it. Now, the next reform that is required in industries is called as infrastructure and logistic. I'll give an example to you. So for example, don't you feel that if somebody has to create a factory in India, they need water, road, electricity, warehouse, cold storage, communication system, waste management facility, right? So, and don't you think that various ministries are involved in giving different kind of infrastructure facilities in India? Sometimes various ministries have no idea what the other ministries are doing. So if I am a ministry of road, I will construct road. But after the completion of road, Ministry of Telecom comes and says, I have to put the optical fibers. Now they will damage the road. So Government of India created Gati Shakti. PM Gati Shakti was created in India. It's a scheme to improve good governance. It helps to improve the coordination between various ministries which provide infrastructure in India. So that is one of the good things. Now, there is another policy created by Government of India called as National Logistics Policy. I'll give an example to you. So Bacho, suppose that I produce this pen in Maharashtra. The price of this pen is 100 rupees. Now, after I produce the pen, I'll do packaging, I'll do storage, I'll do transportation, I'll do distribution. So, storage, transportation, packaging and distribution, STPD. These things together is called logistic. So, a 100 rupee pen, if I do storage, transportation, packaging and distribution in Delhi, from Maharashtra it comes to Delhi, its price will become 109 rupees. What is this 9 rupees? This 9 rupees is the logistic cost in India. So the logistic cost in India in the year 2021 was roughly around 8.79% of GDP, which is high. And the government of India realized that it is slightly on the higher side. Government of India wanted to reduce this. How did the government of India reduce this? The government of India reduced this by bringing something called as National Logistics Policy 2022. What is mentioned in the National Logistics Policy? That now India will use multimodal transportation system. For example, earlier we depended on road. So now we are saying we will use road also, we will use railway also. Remember, in today's budget, the government of India has announced new railway lines in India, new railway zones. So roads, railway, aircraft, waterways, everything will be used in India. And the government of India has said that different ministries, like 11 ministries in India, they provide various services related to storage, transportation, packaging and distribution. So you know what ministries have done? 11 ministries of India have come together on a collective platform called as Unified Logistic Interface Platform, called as ULIP. So if suppose I am a producer of the pen and I have to transport, store, and I have to make this pen available from Maharashtra to Delhi. So I will go on the ULIP platform and I will try to see that which are the logistic services which are available to me, which are government regulated at good price, and so that without any delay and without any problems, I can transport my pen from Maharashtra to Delhi through ULIP platform. So what will happen overall? My logistic cost will reduce. Why? Because now I can use official registered logistics services through government agencies also. So what has happened because of these schemes by government of India, like PM Gati Shakti and National Logistic Policy, our logistic cost has come down, and now in the year 2025 our logistic cost is 7.96% of GDP. Right. Now in the economic survey this year, the government of India has also mentioned that MSMEs need to be improved and supported. But guys, before we look at what support is the government talking about, I think we must look at the importance of MSMEs in India, and we should look at the updated figures from the economic survey, that what is the contribution of MSMEs in Indian economy. So let us see. So how many registered MSMEs are there, and where are MSMEs registered? MSMEs are registered on Udyam portal, right? Now, how many MSMEs are registered in India currently? Roughly, according to economic survey, around 7.47 crore. That is the first figure. Second, what is the contribution of MSMEs in manufacturing? Contribution of MSMEs in manufacturing is 35.4%. Now, if you look at the export, what is the contribution of MSMEs in export last year? 48.58% of India's total export came from MSMEs. What is the contribution of MSMEs in India's GDP? Roughly 31.1% of GDP, which is roughly one third came from MSMEs. How much employment have the MSMEs created according to latest economic survey? Direct plus indirect employment, 32.82 crore created by MSMEs. Now, in current economic survey, 3 specific schemes have been highlighted related to MSMEs. I'll also mention those 3 highlights which the economic survey is talking about. Number 1, you see, if I'm MSME and I want to open a factory, I want to buy some machines and technology, for that I need some money. So can I get the loan from a bank without collateral? Yes. So there is a scheme by Government of India called as Credit Guarantee Scheme for micro and small industries in India. It is available. So what was the limit up to which earlier I could take a loan from the bank without putting any collateral to open MSMEs in India? Earlier the limit was 2 crore rupees. Then the government increased the limit to 5 crore, and the economic survey of this year government has mentioned that if any MSME wants to take loan without putting collateral, so they can avail the scheme called as Credit Guarantee Scheme. Majority of the loan under Credit Guarantee Scheme is provided to the MSMEs without any collateral. So, and what is the maximum amount of loan that can be taken under Credit Guarantee Scheme by MSMEs? Micro and small, specifically micro and small industries, up to 10 crore. So earlier it was 2, then it became 5, now it has become 10 crore. Up to 10 crore loan can be taken by micro and small industries under Credit Guarantee Scheme, number 1. Number 2, suppose I am MSME and bacho, I have sold you this pen. When the pen reaches you, suppose you don't make payment to me. Now, how will I get my payment? I will have to file a formal complaint, a case against you, etc. Right? So many complications. So Government of India is saying that before you file a case and a formal complaint, if suppose MSME is selling a product and they are not getting the payment, so Government of India is saying what we can do is, a new scheme has been launched by the government. This scheme was there actually, but it has been mentioned by the government. It is called MSME Scheme on Online Dispute Resolution ODR, right, for delayed payment. So if somebody is not making a payment to me or there is a delay, so what I can do is, I am the MSME and you are the person who didn't make the payment to me, so we can amicably talk, sit on the table and discuss through online platform, and we can try to sort out the matter. If the matter is unresolved, then we can file a formal complaint. But unnecessarily filing formal complaint about everything increases the burden of the judiciary and the government agencies. That's why this online dispute resolution mechanism has been promoted by the government. So these two updates are there. There is a third update also. For this update, I'll give you a diagram. See, this third update is related to a scheme by Government of India called as Trade Receivables Discounting System, called as TREDS. It is Trade Receivable Discounting System. So I give an example to you. So suppose bacho that I have sold you this pen, right? Now the moment you get this pen, I told you that you need to pay me 100 rupees. So I sold you the pen, you are the buyer. Now you need to give me 100 rupees, which is this. But suppose you said that you can't give me 100 rupees, you will give me the 100 rupees after 3 months. So I'll tell you that, okay, give me in writing. So you wrote on a piece of paper a bill that you will make the payment exactly 100 rupees after 3 months. You took the pen. So pen is gone and you gave the paper to me. This paper is in my pocket now. Now what happens is, tomorrow I feel I am in urgent need of fund, but I can't wait for 3 months. So what will I do? Now Government of India says that what I can do is, I am the MSME, I can take this piece of paper called as bill and I can put it on an online platform which is maintained by RBI, and the name of the online platform is TREDS, Trade Receivable Discounting System. So I can put it there on the online platform. Now on this online platform, banks, NBFCs and other financial institutions will see this bill. I am the MSME, I will ask them that, is there anyone who wants to buy this bill? So suppose that SBI, State Bank of India, says they want to buy it for 80 rupees. SDFC says they are ready to pay 90 rupees for this. So basically I am doing auction of the bill. So I will give the bill to SDFC, and how much money will I get? I will not get 100. I will get, for example, let's say less than 100, which is 90. So my financial needs have been taken care of. Now HDFC has this paper. Mind you, you are supposed to make 100 rupees payment to me after 3 months. So now since I am not the bill holder, you will make the payment of 100 rupees to SDFC. So what is the profit for SDFC? 10 rupees. This whole system is called TREDS, or discounting system. How does it work? Like this. In UPSC Mains, you can draw this diagram. This is MSME. This is, let's say, corporate buyer. So MSME has delivered the product and buyer has given a bill. Now MSME goes to TREDS. TREDS is maintained by RBI, and MSME auctions the bill. And who are the buyers? Financial institution, banks, NBFCs. So when you auction, from here money goes to MSME. How much? 90 rupees. And now this company will make the payment to you, which is 100 rupees. This is how the TRED system works. So in the economic survey, it has been mentioned that the corporates, the companies who can become a part of this TRED system must have a turnover of at least 250 crore rupees per year. So only those companies who have a turnover of 200 crore rupees per year, only they can issue such bills which can be traded on the TREDS platform. Any company whose turnover is less, the government says they cannot issue such bills. Right? This is the current affairs part in this year's economic survey. Now, the next part is very interesting, and which is the final reform related to the improvement of manufacturing sector in India. What is the name of this step? The name of this step is integrating with global value chain. Before I explain to you the point which is mentioned in the economic survey, I must give you an example. Now, so bachcho, suppose this is Vietnam and this is India. So this is Vietnam company and that company is an Indian company. Now let us see what is happening. So let's say that Vietnam is manufacturing mobile phones. Okay. So what Vietnam is doing is, Vietnam is importing 48 various components of mobile phone, and from its side it is adding 52 components, and it is manufacturing a mobile phone and it is exporting the mobile phone, right? Now since it is importing 48 different type of inputs and it is putting 52 from its side, what is happening is most of the manufacturing is happening in Vietnam itself. Yeah, it is importing a large number of components, but still it is adding value from its side also. I am taking a hypothetical example. So it is leading to employment, it is leading to export, and it is increasing GDP also. Now over a period of time, what will happen is, Vietnam will get expertise because its workers are working in this factory, and over a period of time, because of this expertise, Vietnam will be able to manufacture many of these 48 components also in Vietnam, right? It will happen over a period of time. Now what does India do? So what India does is, suppose India has to produce, example, a machine, any machine, let's say medical equipment. So what India does is India imports 75 inputs. India adds 5 inputs from its own side, right? Or let's say 8 inputs from its own side. So total 25 inputs used. Now there are 75 more inputs which are required. So now this medical equipment goes to another country, let's say China. So what does China do? China adds the remaining 75 inputs. So what has happened to India? India imported 17 inputs, added 8 from its side, but China added 75 inputs, and now finally China is exporting the product. How many jobs will be created in India? Very less. How many jobs will be created in China? A lot. So less jobs here, more jobs here. What is the value addition in India? Very low, because India got 17 inputs, added just 8. And what is the value addition in China? Huge, 75. So in India, value addition is also very low. So there is a ratio which is called as business value added in export ratio, BVAX ratio. What is this ratio? So this ratio says that BVAX ratio is equal to foreign value added by gross export. It means if we are exporting a product like this pen or like this mobile phone, and suppose 100 components are used here, so which we are exporting, in these 100 components, how much components have we imported from outside? So when we export something, what is the contribution of imported components? So in case of Vietnam, what will be the ratio in our example? The BVX ratio will be 48%. In case of India, it will be 17%. So if you import more components, like Vietnam has imported more components, is it necessarily a bad thing? No. It has imported 48, it can add more value from its size, which is 52. India has imported less, but then India has also added less from its side. So which means essentially the economic survey is arguing that if you come to developing countries like India, Vietnam, etc., you will see in the initial stages of development, if countries like India and Vietnam, if they import more components and then they add little value from their side, over a period of time, they will be able to add more value because they will also learn. But in the initial phases, country like India or Vietnam, when they import more components, it's not necessarily bad. That's what the economic survey says through data. Economic survey says, see here, Vietnam imported 48 but added 52. India imported 17, added 8. So economic survey says India should import more components if we don't have it. Initially, it will lead to more jobs and our BVX ratio will improve. And over time, instead of importing components, economic survey says we should produce our own components. But till the time we are able to produce components, we should act like Vietnam and we should import the components, add them and then export, and later on we should create our own components. This is something which economic survey is arguing. And economic survey says if we are able to do it, then India will become a very integral part of global value chain. So economic survey says India should strategically select those products, like for example medical equipment, mobile phone, computers, in which we should be doing these things. So that over a period of time, from net importer of inputs and assemble that we are doing in India currently, what are we doing in India? Assembly. That too also we are not doing well. So economic survey says if we are doing assembly, no problem. In the initial stages, assembly is fine. Later on, we should produce our own inputs and products through schemes like PLI. This will help India to become indispensable part, called as strategic indispensability, which means select the product in such a way that you have some knowledge about it and then you import some inputs. Later on, don't import input, create your own inputs, and then you become a very important player in the global value chain. This is the final part. So I hope that you have been able to understand this chapter on industries, and I hope that you have been able to see the various dimensions of the government approach towards taking industries in the next 10 years, where the government is talking about a strategic shift as well as some reforms which are essential to make our manufacturing strong. So thank you so much. All the best. Study well.